Yeah, can you let me know if you can see it in a good way? Full
Yes,
screen and
it's
perfect.
yeah.
Then maybe I can also briefly introduce myself. My name is Arya. I work as a researcher in Wageningen Livestock Research. I'm looking for my presentation. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a member of the poultry nutrition team back in livestock research since 2021. By training, I'm a poultry veterinarian. I worked in the industry, poultry production sector for 4 years. Then I came to Wageningen to study poultry nutrition, and I started to work here. And in Wageningen, I do research in alternative ingredients, their application in poultry, in broilers, laying hens, including insects. And today, what I would like to share with you is the outcome of a public-private partnership we did in Wageningen between 2024, 22 to 4 on the application of black soldier fly larva products in the diet of one-star beta live broilers. And yeah, I will briefly introduce the project to you and then the three animal experiments that we executed, and we share our conclusion with you. And this project was a public-private partnership. I can briefly introduce what these kind of projects are, if it's helpful. Technically, public-private partnerships are kind of projects in response to the annual call from agri-food top sector, and different private partners and public partners, they sit together to address pre-competitive research questions. And what we do at Wageningen is to support the discussion, align the discussion with the missions of the government, prepare the proposal, and when a proposal is granted, then the ministry will contribute 50% of the project budget. And all the outcome will be published at the end of the project. And in this specific one, we had Venik Protix as an insect producer, for farmers as the feed producer, and Sparrow as the a retailer and a slaughterhouse owners. Um, and the aim of this public-private partnership was to technically decrease the dependency on imported soybean products from particularly from South America, where it is associated with a deforesting issue. So we wanted to replace such products in one-star better life broilers feed with black soldier fly larva, protein and oil, but also other locally produced alternative protein sources. This was the main goal of this project, and for sure there were also some sub objectives. Imagine that it was 2022. At that time, application of insect products in poultry feed was just legalized in the EU, so it was also a first mover positioning of the partners. It was also like considering the fact that poultry are insectivores, that's back to nature, and much more about sustainability, including an assessment of the impact of such diets on, let's say, environmental impact of the feed and chicken meat production. And everything was about one-star better life. And if by any chance you are not familiar with it, is about higher welfare, in this case, broiler production system in the Netherlands. We executed 3 animal experiments, as I said, in this project. In the first one, we addressed the application of black soldier fly products, normal meal with extra chitin and oil, in low inclusion levels in the diet of slow-growing broilers. Based on the outcome of this experiment, we decide on one diet with black soldier fly products. In this case, it was 1% black soldier fly oil, and we assessed the impacts in 6 different commercial broiler farms in the Netherlands. And then we concluded this project with another animal experiment in which we completely replaced soybean meal and oil. We call it soybean meal free diets. We produce that, and we produce that by using locally produced protein sources in Europe, like sunflower seed meal, rapeseed meal, but also black soldier fly and other processed animal proteins. And then we wanted to understand, when we go with such soybean meal free diet, what is the contribution of black soldier fly products to it. And as we discussed at the beginning, I will share with you the results of the first 2 in hopefully in 20-25 minutes. And after a brief pause and rounds of a question and answer, if we can manage it, I would be more than happy to continue to the last experiment, which I think it was quite an interesting one. Otherwise, we will get back to each other another day. So far, the outcomes of this TS project has been shared or presented in different conferences, but also in a public article, I mean a report for general audience on the large scale trial, an LCA, a life cycle assessment report, and also scientific manuscripts are under preparation. And then I think we can start with the first animal experiment. Oops. Let's see. Yeah, the first trial here, you see the experimental facility which we executed the projects, just to give an imagination of what we did. As I said before, the aim was to assess the impacts of including low inclusion level of insect products in let's see this, minimize this, yeah, on health, welfare, performance, carcass characteristics, and sustainability of slow-growing broilers. But today I will limit myself to the effect on performance. A study, we had 8 different diets in this trial, and we did everything with the slow-growing broilers to represent the one-stop better live production system between 0 to 56 days of age. And then for each diet, we had 8 replicates. Each replicate was a pen of broilers, 22 broilers in this case, at the beginning of the study. So in total, we executed this trial with 1,400 day-old chicken, or let's say we started with this population. And then we had 8 diets. Control diet was a diet representing the commercial diet for slow-growing broilers. Then we had diets with 1% or 2.5% of black soldier fly oil, 1% or 5% black soldier fly meal, and the same inclusion levels, 1%, 5%, black soldier fly meal with extra chitin. And then we had another diet in which we replaced soybean oil with palm kernel fatty acid, because it is also a source of lauric acid and the medium chain fatty acid in black soldier fly oil, which makes it an interesting product for gut health. And then we wanted to see if the impacts that we observed, the positive impacts that we observed on growth performance or health of broilers when we include or included in previous studies black soldier fly oil in the diet. Is it something only related to the concentration of lauric acid or other properties of black soldier fly oil also contribute to that. That's why we included this extra diet in the study. And as you see, the inclusion level is at the low side. So we partially replaced soybean meal. If I want to get a better overview of what we did, our control diets contain 20 to 26% soybean meal and 2.5 to, let's say, 2 to 4% soybean oil. This is like a common approach in feed formulation for commercial slow growing broilers. And then how much we replaced with this low inclusion level of insect products. This is what you see in this table. This is the amount of soybean, either soybean meal or soybean oil, which has been replaced in this study. By this I mean that, for example, in case of 2.5% black soldier fly oil, between 66% to 100% of soybean oil was replaced. And why we see such a range? Because this is related to the age of the broilers. As they get older, they need more energy, and then we have about 4% black soybean oil in the diet, so our 2.5% cannot replace it fully. So in this specific study, we decided to keep the inclusion level of our insect products constant across different diets as broilers get older. And then in terms of black soldier fly meal, we replaced about 1/3 of the soybean meal with it. So this is more or less the extent that we replaced in the diet. And then our study was between 0 to 56 days. Slow growing broilers, they grow. We split it in the industry. We split their production in 4 different phases, and in each phase they receive a diet which meeting their requirements. And then at the end of each phase, we measure their body weight, and also we collected samples in terms of health and welfare. But if I want to give an overview of what we observe in terms of production performance, this is this graph with body weight gain at 56 days of age at the end of the trial. So at the X bar, you see 8 different diets, including the control diet, and the Y bar represents their body weight in gram. And if you look better here, it's quite zoomed in. So it's between 2.9 kilogram to 3.2 kilogram. In general, diet affected the body weight gain. I mean, statistically affected, but the difference in body weight of the broilers at the end of the production between different diets was quite small. The biggest contrast was related to the broilers which fed with 1% black soldier fly meal with extra chitin, which was not significantly different with the control diet. And when we increased the inclusion level of black soldier fly meal to 5%, we observed a slightly lower body weight. And then the broilers which fed with black soldier fly oil, they grow quite good and comparable to the control diet. And with palm kernel fatty acid, we also observed a little drop in body weight. We did further analysis of the diet, and we couldn't pinpoint a certain cause of this lower body weight gain in when we used palm kernel fatty acid. It should be something in relation with variation in dispatch of palm kernel fatty acid, but it was not that much related. We can also say that it can also indicate that the positive impact of black soldier fly oil on performance or health can be also related to something besides the lauric acid, because we measured and the amount of lauric acid in this diet was completely similar to 2.5% black soldier fly oil. And then here you see the same outline, but for average daily feed intake between 0 to 56 days of age. And if you still remember the effects on body weight, it seems that the slight differences in body weight that we observed was quite driven with the differences in average daily feed intake. By this I mean that the higher average daily feed intake of broilers was observed in the group which fed with 1% black soldier fly meal with extra chitin. And at 5%, the feed intake was slightly lower, which was associated with a little bit lower body weight gain. And then we have feed conversion ratio, an important indicator, quite practical indicator of growth efficiency in broilers, and it was not there was no significant differences in between different dietary treatments. And if I try to give a better understanding of what we observed, these two graphs can help me. Here at right, we have the body weight gain, and here the feed conversion ratio, and then our 8 diets, and then each color represents the specific phase of the production. So a starter, grower 1, grower 2, and finisher. And then I made all the body weight gain a relative value. I mean, I change it to a relative value in relation with the control diet. So the 100%, the blue line here, represent our control group. And when a value is above this line, it means that broilers gained higher body weight in comparison to the control group at that specific age. And what we see here, yeah, in general, the palm kernel fatty acid, they did not grow as good as the control diet or our black soldier fly oil group. And then all the insect treatments, particularly in the starter phase at the between 0 to 10 days of age, they gained higher than the control group or comparable to that. And then with a higher inclusion level of meal, we see that as broilers get a bit older, they are gaining a slightly lower body weight in comparison to the control diet. So I observe kind of like product specific effects, but also the effect of age when we replace soybean or partially replace soybean products with black soldier fly meal or oil. And I will get back to this later. And then another question was about the impact on carbon footprint, because we are incorporating black soldier fly products in the diet, also with the goal of sustainability to reduce the environmental impact. This you can see in these two graphs. On top, we have carbon footprint of gram body weight in broilers, and below we have the effect of land use impact. 8 different diets from control to black soldier fly, all 2.5%. And these graphs are showing that when we include black soldier fly meal or oil, we see a reduction even up to 13% or 11.5% reduction in carbon footprint of producing broiler meat in one-star better life system, and also 15 or 11% reduction in land use impact. So even including black soldier fly products, even in a low inclusion level, can already reduce the environmental impact of producing a slow-growing broiler's meat. And if I want to conclude on this experiment, environmental impact was reduced significantly. There was a slight effects on growth performance. I can say that broilers, they maintain their growth performance, and in some case, particularly at early age, we saw even a positive effects on growth performance. And there was no positive or negative effects on welfare, and also we observed some effects on health, but these data these data has not published yet, so you will see it later in scientific publication. And then based on the outcome of this study, we decided to design a larger scale study with only 2 treatments. So a diet of a standard diet of a farm at that certain moment versus the same diet, but including 1% black soldier fly oil. We did this trial in 6 different commercial broiler farms. Each of these farms had at least 2 very similar barns. And then we did this study in 2 consecutive rounds. I will get back to this. And then we focused on performance parameters, but also results from commercial slaughterhouse, welfare measurement, and litter quality. Doing such a, let's say, field experiments usually has its own limitation. And in this case, because of the avian influenza, we were not allowed to enter the farms in the first round of production, but hopefully in the second round we got the permission, and we also measure welfare parameters. So in each farm, we did the study 2 times. So if there was like barn A, barn B, in the first round of production, barn A received the insect oil, and those broilers sent to the slaughterhouse at 56 days of age. And then in the next round, barn A received the control diet. So the setting was like this. And this slide is further information about the readouts. I think I can skip it. And then the outcome. So here in this graph, you see the live weight of slow-growing broilers at the end of the production when they receive control diet or diet with 1% black soldier fly oil. And then each dot represents a flock, the average body weight of broilers in one flock. And then when 2 dots are connected with a line, so it represents the 2 different barns of one farm, one eating control and the other eating diet with 1% black soldier fly oil. And you see there were quite barn effects or also variation. By this I mean that we had farms in which feeding broilers with 1% black soldier fly oil resulted in a slightly higher live weight, and we had other farms they showed other way around or no differences. But if I want to give you an overview of the outcome, no significant differences in live weight, in feed conversion ratio, in feed consumption, mortality, and European performance efficiency factors. So we concluded that for production performance, we concluded that there was no significant effect when we included 1% black soldier fly oil in this study. And then in terms of carcass characteristics, results were comparable. No significant difference. And in terms of welfare, we only observed difference between 2 flocks in one farm. In one farm, we saw that the welfare parameters were better in the barn, which the broilers received the diet with 1% insect oil. But we didn't see this effect in other farms. So in general, we can replace 1% of soybean oil with black soldier fly oil in commercial production, but we don't see a positive effects. However, broilers maintain their production performance, litter quality, welfare, and carcass yield. And the outcome of this also has been published in a public article, which I can share. And then we move to the last trial, and where we studied a complete replacement of soybean oil, soybean meal and soybean oil with insect products and other locally produced alternative protein sources in Europe. I don't know if you prefer now to go for a question and answer and see how much time we will have to address this one or address it in another day. I'm totally open to both approach.
I think that's a very good idea.
See it
Yes.
good? Yeah.
Very good.
Full screen?
Yeah, thank you, Peter.
So it's you're welcome. And the last trial of that project was another experiment with slow-growing broilers to partially or completely replace soybean meal, soybean oil with insect products, but also other locally produced protein sources. So we had 8 different diets. We used the same setting and same research facility with broilers in pens, and then we had 8 different diets, a control diet, the control diet with 1% black soldier fly oil. Then we reduced the soybean meal. We introduced local plant protein, which I elaborate in the next slide, and still we kept 1% black soldier fly oil. Then we completely replaced soybean meal by increasing the level of local plant protein and kept 1% black soldier fly oil. And we did that because we assumed the positive effects of black soldier fly oil on gut health of broilers, in particularly when we go with diets with high inclusion level of alternative ingredients. Then we introduced black soldier fly meal 6.6% to the soybean meal free diet, or we incorporated processed animal protein, in this case pork meal. Then we had 2 more diets. First one, we incorporated 5% Puree X, the black soldier fly slurry, in the control diet, and then we tried to simulate this diet with Puree X by adding water, black soldier fly meal, and oil. Just in case of for the sake of simplicity, I first share the outcome of the first 6 diets, and then I will go to the diet with Puree X, because these diets are quite different. Here you see the inclusion level of different European protein sources in our diet. So in the control diet, the main protein source was a soybean meal. And then we reduced soybean meal to about 15% by increasing the inclusion of faba bean, peas, rapeseed, and sunflower. And then this is the diet where there was no soybean meal. And then here we introduced black soldier fly meal, and in the other diet, pork meal. So one thing which was quite interesting to us was one of the limitation of formulating diet with with such local protein sources. By this I mean that with a commercial diet, with a representative of commercial diet, only 30% of the diet goes for protein sources. When we go to a low soybean or no soybean meal diet, you see that easily 50% or higher space in the feed has been contributed to protein sources. this will put pressure on feed formulation, because then the formulator has the rest of the 50% to make sure that the diet will meet the requirements of, in this case, broilers, have enough fat in the diet, and such ingredients has a high fiber. That's why their inclusion level needs to be higher, and that is another limitation. So by this I mean that when we move to circular diets, then we also experience such limitations that we need to address, because a diet, for example, with 50% protein sources, they may need to increase the fat to higher than 6 or 7%, which is a normal maximum concentration in our commercial feed. And then that high fat or high fiber can also affect on the digestion of the nutrients, and but also can change the cost of the diet. So these kind of challenges, or let's say adaptations, are also needed when in the future we move towards using more and more circular diets in broiler production in the Netherlands. And here you see the carbon footprints of different diets. So carbon footprint and land use change are different diets in different colors, and in different production phase of the broilers. And you see that by reducing the soybean meal, we already reduced the carbon footprint or the environmental impact of the diet. And then when we completely remove soybean meal from the diet, then we are reducing the carbon footprint of the diet up to 50%. And yeah, this calculation was done based on the database of Nevadi in 2023. And then the outcome. So here you see the body weight, average daily weight gain of broilers between 0 to 55 days of age in a different diet. So our X bar representing different diets, the Y bar, or let's say the blue bars, representing the average daily body weight gain. And then the orange dot representing the feed conversion ratio of different diets. So in general, a partial or complete replacement of soybean meal with plant-based protein sources did not affect the body weight gain, but it increased the feed conversion ratio slightly. And then when we removed completely the soybean meal, then the feed conversion ratio significantly increased in comparison to the control diet, from 1.82 to 1.85. And then when we introduced black soldier fly meal, it prevented this rise, or let's say mitigated the rise in feed conversion ratio. With with pork meal, the broilers they gained a slightly little body weight, significantly little body weight in comparison to the other treatments, something like 2 gram per day lower, and that's why the FCR, the feed conversion ratio, was higher. We did some further analysis of the diet. At this moment, we think the reason for this compromised body weight of broilers when they fed diet with pork meal, in this case, soybean meal-free diet with pork meal, could be related to our to a variation in the nutritional value of it. By this I mean that we made certain assumption about its nutritional value in feed formulation. It seems that this specific batch had a lower nutritional value. And this is actually something which can also happen with black soldier fly products or other alternative ingredients. It can also happen sometimes with conventional ingredients, but I want to emphasize this kind of limitation, because that's why I earlier said that we need to do more and more research with alternative ingredients to increase the accuracy of our understanding from their nutritional value. And then, so if I want to make a conclusion on this general outcome, when we reduced the soybean meal, feed conversion ratio increased. But if you remember the graph about environmental impact, the environmental impact already reduced a bit. Then we move to soybean meal-free diet. Body weight slightly compromised. FCR increased, but environmental impact was reduced for about 50%. And then we introduced a black soldier fly meal in this case to a soybean meal-free diet. Then broilers could maintain their body weight, and the rise in FCR alleviated a bit, but then we can assume the price of the diet was slightly higher. And then with pork meal, I said it seems that it's an incidental occurrence here. But what I mean is, again, so what is our goal? What consumer wants? If consumers are ready to compensate, for example, a higher cost of feed, but having a lower environmental impact. And the other thing for the poultry sector is we cannot judge everything, the growth efficiency just based on FCR, yeah, because we might ended up with a slightly higher FCR, but for example, the environmental impact of the production is lower. So just as a suggestion, firstly, we need to think about other efficiency indicators besides FCR if we want to promote the application of such alternative ingredients, or if we want to reduce the environmental impact of our poultry feed. We need to think a little broader than FCR. And also we need to find better indicators of the nutritional value of such alternative ingredients, let's say. But in general, we observe that slow-growing broilers, they maintain their growth efficiency when soybean meal was completely replaced with local protein sources, including black soldier fly larva meat. And then very briefly on the last two diets, the diet with puree. So puree is a commercial product. It's technically minced black soldier fly larva, pasteurized, and then the feed factories can receive it as a frozen paste. So it has a high moisture content, 72%, when we compare it to conventional ingredients like soybean meal, which hardly has 10% or so moisture. And then here you see their nutritional composition as fresh weight. So about 11% protein, 11% fat, and then 72% moisture. And as dry matter, then the crude protein content and amino acid content is quite comparable to soybean meal, but then we have also a higher fat in such product. We included it 5% of this product in pelleted feed, and we simulated also their nutritional value by incorporating black soldier fly meal, oil, and water. So even with 1% puree X, we replaced something between 6 to 11% of soybean meal in the diet. And so what happened here on the X bar, you see the three different diets: control, pre-X, and simulated diet. And then the orange bar indicated, again, average daily body weight gain between 0 to 55 days of age. And then the blue dot is average daily feed intake. So you see that when we move to diet with such a high moisture content ingredient, we see a rise in feed intake, which makes sense because broilers adapted themselves to receive the same amount of nutrient in the dry matter fraction of the diet by eating more. And so the rise in feed intake was significant, statistically significant. And then we see a little decline in body weight gain, but that was not something significant. It's from average of 54.4 gram per day to 54 or 53.7. The European performance efficiency factor decreased because of the higher feed conversion ratio. And still, the environmental impact of the body weight was lower. So we see a slightly lower carbon footprint when we introduced puree X to the commercial diet. But then the thing is, yeah, the feed intake was higher, so FCR was higher, but is it really a true representative of what was happening? We did another thing. We measured the feed conversion ratio based on dry matter of the feed. This is being represented here in orange bar, and then the blue bar is feed conversion ratio in the normal way that we calculate. So we just calculate the ratio of how much feed broilers ate and how much body weight they gained. And we see that when we measure the feed intake or calculate the feed intake based on their dry matter content, then there is no difference. So it means that broilers ate the same dry matter fraction of the feed and gained the same weight when we introduced 5% of puree to the diet. And the same observation we had about the European performance efficiency when we calculate based on dry matter intake of the feed, then there was no difference among different dietary programs. And in terms of welfare, we didn't observe any meaningful effects. So if I want to wrap up these last treatments, there is a potential for including such less processed insect products in pelleted feed without negative effects on pellet quality and growth performance of broilers. And then you see on this slide certain concerns about the technical challenge of producing feed with high moisture ingredients for our feed factories, and further information that we need to understand. Then now I have the opportunity to wrap up the whole 2 years project. So in one sentence, slow growing broilers, they are able to maintain their growth rate, when soybean meal is replaced by local protein sources, including black soldier fly products, and which can reduce the environmental impact of the feed, but also the environmental impact of the chicken meat. And I didn't do this project alone. This project was led by Toon Veldkamp at Wageningen Livestock Research, and other colleagues of mine contributed to this project. And I would like to thank or acknowledge our partners in this project. And this project, as I mentioned at the beginning, it was a public-private partnership project which was financially supported by top sector, and also partially financed with our partners in this project. Thank you very much for your thank you very much for you to staying in the meeting to finish this presentation.